Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for December 9th, 2022. I am Benji Fisher moderating, and also at the meeting are Michael G. Brodier, who's sharing his screen and will start off the discussion, Antonia, Ralph Kohler, and Simo Helston. Michael, go ahead and again, please read the issue number for the sake of the recording.
Okay, thank you very much, Benji. And for the issue, the number is 319-8565. And this issue is, the title is, cannot expand toolbar items, referencing no link or with options no path. And the problem about this issue is that the vertical bar, menu toolbar, when we are implementing new menu items that have a child menu item, it does not show an expand button. So while this, it doesn't work when it's back to the horizontal face, but normally when the sidebar shows on as a vertical face, it is expected to have a button to show all its child menu items. So when we scroll to the current issue, the latest version of Drupal core 10+.1.x dev. So when we have no link menu item, it displays as a gray colored item that is seen disabled and the styling is off. So I think over here, we need to discuss how this issue need to be fixed and what is the direction. So currently, we know that this issue can be fixed by changing the JavaScript toolbar point menu.js, this file. And there was this script of how it's being wrapped with the toolbar box part. Now it's just missing the part how it should target the no link menu item, which displays as a span. So I think that's currently how this issue works.
Does anyone have questions about the problem this issue is trying to address? Antonia, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm kind of confused. Are we discussing a specific usability issue? I mean, it's obviously a usability issue, but are we discussing the code then?
Yeah, that's sort of what I asked on Slack several hours ago. You know, the usability meeting is for discussing usability questions, not implementation. So it does seem like a bug. It should be fixed. It is a usability bug, but how you implement it in the JavaScript is not really the thing we need to discuss, is it?
Oh, okay. So it's my misunderstanding of the discussion that we had earlier.
One issue that could be kind of verified that we support in the admin toolbar, we support top level links that do not have page. So that's something that it's a differentiates from the standard behavior of the pages. So there are allowed pages, and in this context, I think usually it means that there are also paths. That what does that test not link test no link? What kind of path do its like the items on below it? What kind of path they have, and what happens when one selects the path like below it? Like how does it? Because usually admin menu follows path, or it's expected to follow a path. So we have like yeah.
I think when you have a path, either have a path or not a path under the test no link, it would be currently when you install admin toolbar, it won't be displayed if the parent path is the link of the parent path is using no link. And the reason why this issue was reassigned into core toolbar is because it does not have the proper behavior that was expected, and using a contrib module can't easily override this behavior of displaying a child menu item.
So I've set up a Drupal site you can all access. I just pasted the link into the chat, and the username and password are both admin. So you can use that to experiment. This is just Drupal with the Umami demo profile installed. And it's not exactly the behavior described on the issues. So I'm wondering what's going on here. I've created a apparently, if you go to structure menus and the administration menu, you can see my parent menu item doesn't link to anything, and it has 2 children.
If you place it under administration, then it should behave the same
Okay.
as shown, like this.
Okay, I see it now. So let's see. I think Ralph said something in the chat. With the admin toolbar active, so that's the contrib module, the child menu item of the top level, no link, is hidden and usability related. Menu items with no link still have a mouse pointer in the admin toolbar, probably also without the admin toolbar. Yeah, so things definitely seem broken. And you know, I think the implementation is not really in the scope of these meetings. So we can agree that there's a usability bug here, but we don't usually discuss how to fix things.
Oh, okay. Then where should I like push this issue to? Like which channel would be a better place to discuss this usability issue?
Good question. Is there a JavaScript channel? There's a front end channel.
Okay.
That might be an appropriate place. There's an admin UI channel, admin-UI.
All right. Admin UI. All right. Then great. I would put this issue to that channel and ask around to see how other things and try to push this forward.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay. And if you'll stop screen
Oh,
sharing,
okay, great.
I'll share mine unless someone else wants to. Give me a minute to find the right window. Not the migrate meeting. Here we go, all the way at the bottom. So let's see. Someone mentioned, here's the issue for today's meeting, which is 3324991. And Aaron has been pulling forward a list of issues to discuss. Let's see, we've been talking about the block items in the administration menu, and there was a recent development on there. I don't want to spend too long on it, but the meta issue is 3318110, and the first child issue is 2987964. Move custom block types admin link to admin structure. So I guess going back again to my freshly installed Drupal site, the point is that, oh no, this is weird. I'm not seeing the usual expand buttons. So under block layout and then custom library and then block types, this is a list of the custom block types. And this issue is about moving this page up in the structure to be directly up in the menu structure to be directly under structure, along with content types and taxonomy and media types. There would be a separate entry block types. That's what this issue is about. And rather to my surprise, the most recent comment here, I think it's the most recent, is from Catch, who says this actually doesn't need product manager review. He quotes the conditions for that tag. If the change represents a significant new feature, UI change, or change to the user experience of the project managers must approve or refuse it. Now, I consider it a significant UI change. I consider it a change to the user experience. But he disagrees. So that's good news. I was thinking, or I have been thinking all along, and we've been saying for a long time, it's not just me, not just my opinion, that we can't rearrange these menu items without, initially we were saying some formal user testing, but I was hoping just to get significant support from the community instead of user testing. But Catch is saying that just the approvals we already have from the usability team and the maintainers of the block content module should be enough. So that's good news. If that applies to the related issues, then I don't see any problem in getting this into Drupal 10.1 because the code changes really aren't all that hard. Any replies to that?
Well, it's good news.
Yeah. So let's see. There is a rather long list of issues here. I haven't looked at any of these recently. If anyone would like to look into one of them, let me know. To 296,693. Oh my, that's a 6-digit issue number. So this was created in 2008. Restrict access to empty top-level administration pages. And the issue here is, I guess I already had that open in this tab as well. There are cases, and actually let me get rid of those pesky menu items because they seem to be screwing things up. I think there are more bugs here than that issue talks about when you have an item with no link. There, that looks more normal. So there are cases where some users have permission to use the toolbar. They have permission to use the admin theme and maybe one or two other permissions. But they don't have permission to view any of these child pages in the structure menu, and yet they will still see the structure link in the admin menu. And then if they go to admin structure, they'll have an empty page here. And that seems sort of not very useful. It takes up room in their admin toolbar when there isn't really any need for, or it isn't useful, but it takes up room. So is this sort of familiar? Do you remember talking about this before? Or have you run into this yourselves?
So I think it can. I think those disappear in most cases. So what would be the exact case where structure menu would, the structure link would be visible, but with no content, because I think they get hidden. That's just I'm just recalling that they would get hidden.
Huh. So you think, and Antonia said in the chat that she also thought this had already been fixed. So let's see, what are the steps to reproduce? Create a new role and give it access to use admin pages and help, those 3 permissions. So let me go through those and see. Go ahead.
So was the help separate permission? So I'm not used to having like you help run. So I don't recall checking if users have help enabled.
So let's see. Use the administration pages and help. View the admin theme. I think these are under system. Grab my toolbar, scroll down. Shortcut system. Administer, none of those. Use the administration pages and help. View the administration theme. And then use the administration toolbar. So that will be the toolbar module. So give the test user those 3 permissions. And then create a user with that permission. And I love this message that to make your passwords more secure, it should be different from your username. And we're going to give, of course, the test user the test role. That should be enough. And now I will log out. And log in as the test user. And what do I see? I see the structure menu. And I don't have any administrative items. So it's basically an empty page. So this is the problem the issue is talking about. Go ahead.
So it's only the structure menu. Yeah, so all the others are hidden, but not this one. So it behaves differently from the others.
What about configuration? Can the user view anything there? Because it should be empty as well, right? Those should all be access denied.
Yeah, so I have all of these links, but I can't use them. So this is still an issue. And of course, you're allowed to add additional things to the admin menu. And So yeah, at this point, the sort of the obvious question is, well, why did you give that limited set of permissions? There is nothing here, well, other than the help that this user can access. But of course, there might be other things. So that's the problem. Now, the proposed resolution, they left this section blank. So it clearly needs an issue summary update. But I think the current suggestion is to change the access system so that, for instance, on this page, so I guess I'm on admin structure, if there are no child items, then don't give access to this page. And the way the menu system works is if the access is denied, then the link will not be added to the menu tree. And I forget exactly what pages this is supposed to apply to. It might be the top level pages in the admin menu. It might just be structure and configuration. I don't recall. And I have some non-usability objections to the current implementation, like performance issues. But for this meeting, let's just focus on the usability issue. I first of all think that we shouldn't be singling out particular pages, whether it's just these top two, structure and configuration, or more general. That we should leave it to the site builder to decide whether or not to give access to these empty pages. For example, a user might have limited permissions now, but might get promoted in the future, and maybe we want them to know that there are parts of the site that they need to request access to be able to see. Or we might want to have some consistency so that when they call the help desk and the help desk says, well, click on this link, what happens? And then they see the empty page. Few comments in the chat, and Tony says it must be the admin toolbar that has fixed this problem. And Ralph confirms that structure and configuration are the only top level menu items that have overview pages.
I think also reports has.
I'm sorry, what?
I think also reports has overview page.
Okay. And
What I'm wondering is why we don't see reports here. So what's?
I guess it must be a separate permission. So I just realized I can do something that no one else on the meeting can do. Because the site is running locally, I can log into my local copy of the site. It's the same site, same database and all, but now I can be logged in as the admin on ddev.site, and I can be logged in as the test user on the ngrok site. So yeah, reports must have a separate permission assigned to it. Let me just search the page for report. View site reports. So if I were to give that to the test user, and then reload page as test user, I would again see reports. So that answers that question.
It's not maybe ideal, but I think a very straightforward solution would be to have permissions for accessing configuration and permissions for accessing structure. So then everything would behave the same.
Okay, that has the virtue of simplicity, that you're not sort of putting in special cases about having access to children in the menu. On the other hand, it's a constant problem that we have too many permissions already. And I think that's also sort of singling out, those two pages. What I think would be a better solution, let me go to structure menus. When editing any menu item, you have various options. You can enable or disable it. You can show it as expanded, which actually I complain about this. I just realized I can change this. Oh, people doesn't have any child menus. That's the problem. Let me. Well, that's odd. I thought this checkbox controlled whether things would show on the admin menu. Apparently it doesn't. But anyway, I think it should be up to the site administrator whether a given link should be visible when its children are not accessible. And I think this should not be handled by the access system, but by the menu system. And then if we were to add a separate option here, and maybe call it a container, say, well, this link is just a container for its child pages. And if a user doesn't have access to those child pages, or whatever situation, if the menu system doesn't find any child pages when constructing the menu, then don't show the container link. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. And would it make sense to have it as on as a default?
In either direction. But go ahead.
Yeah, so have a default setting that if the menu item has children but that are not accessible, it wouldn't be shown.
So I actually think we should look there. There probably aren't too many menu items that that count as containers. Let's just look at the overwhelming administration bar. So, suppose I go to display modes. I suppose that's a container. If I don't have access to either of those, then I shouldn't have access to this. Configuration is a container. People is not, right? Even if I don't have access. Oh, this is people under the configuration menu. This is just a container for one item, which is sort of odd by itself. Excuse me. Maybe you're right. Maybe a lot of the things here, a lot of the things that have children are containers. Go ahead.
When you enable contrib modules, like for instance, commerce has a lot of those.
And Antonia mentions in the chat, I'd also check admin toolbar source code to see how they did it. And she has to leave early. So from the usability point of view, I think it's a win to give site administrators control over this. I think the current proposal is sort of complicated in its implementation. And it would be sort of simpler to add an additional checkbox. From the usability point of view, I guess the main problem is that this form would be a little more complicated with yet another option on it. I don't think it's such a complicated form that that's a big problem. So I think it's a good idea from a usability point of view. In terms of implementation, it's kind of a big deal because we'd be adding an additional field to the menu link content entity type. But for the purposes of this meeting, we don't have to worry about that. As we said, talking about the issue at the start, implementation is not the point of these meetings. So do people agree with me that that this is something that should be under the control of the site administrator? Go ahead, Ralph.
Just one brief question, because I was a bit distracted because I was quickly testing the issue with admin toolbar aside after Antonia's comment. Have I understood it correctly that the suggestion is to add the option to the individual menu item, a checkbox to show or hide? Is it correct?
Yes.
Then also for child menu items of a top level one, or just for the top level one to hide everything underneath?
So it would be an option for the parent menu item.
Just for the parent, okay. Then yeah, then I'm fine with it. The only comment I would have had is for the child, if you could set it visible to make some notification that there's an override, that it's if someone else comes to the configuration, that he or she is aware of it. And if it's hidden in one of a menu items configuration, it might be difficult to spot.
So let's see. So let's, to make sure I understand what you're asking about, let's look at structure and block layout. So parent and child. So I'm suggesting, oh, I didn't want to click on those. I wanted to click on the edit buttons for those two. So I'm suggesting an extra option added here, and I guess the option would also be here, but that would affect the block layout link and its children. So are you saying that this child should be aware of the state of its parent item?
The only point is, let's say you are setting up the menu structure as admin, and me as another admin come to the site after, let's say, 2 weeks. I haven't known what you've done during that time, and you've made some significant changes, let's say, and a way to make it apparent that there's some modifications in regards of permissions for those two particular menu items, that I'm not sure if it could cause some future problems. With the permissions on the permissions page, it might be directly apparent. In those menu items, it is definitely more flexible, but it might inherit potential configuration problems. That is the only, or that the persons are not aware of, that other users made certain changes. That is what I'm trying to express. I'm not sure. In general, I like the idea of flexibility and that granularity you suggest.
Right. So, if one user has access to any of these child menus and they show up in the menu, then the fact that I've selected the new option for structure isn't going to have any effect. That user will still see it.
Okay.
And so I guess I don't see where the confusion is going to come from when looking at the child menu item.
Yeah. Okay. I might have overcomplicated things in my head.
So any other opinions? I see several of you are unmuted. Do you have something to say?
I'm still thinking through other scenarios that may cause further confusing once the new option in the menu item control page is shown.
So shall we be specific? Shall we say structure? Suppose that I've got this proposed new option and I've selected it for structure. Then what are you worried about?
So the proposal is having this option of displaying this menu item when it has other child menu items.
Right. So going back to my test user,
Because
test user would have access to this page, but it would not appear as a link in the toolbar.
once the option is turned on.
Right.
But he still have the access to this page, just not displaying on the menu.
That's right.
Isn't that inconsistent for the user himself? like because he has no, he can access this overview page, but he can't really do any action on it.
Changing the navigation isn't enough. That there's nothing to do on this page, so the user shouldn't have access to it. So I guess you're agreeing with the current proposal on the issue.
Is it in theory possible? It's not one of those two, but like for instance, if you wouldn't have permission to list users, so you wouldn't have permission to view people page, but you would have permission to administer user rights. So permissions is not in the menu, but the parent of permissions is. So if there are some kind of a tab level path where user has access, but not to the ones that are in the menu. So I think, yeah. So maybe go to the admin version of the site.
Okay.
Yeah, where you're
I'm-
logged
I'm-
in.
Right. I just had that on the wrong tab. I meant to do
Yeah,
that.
so I think yeah, if it's not it doesn't have a like a menu tree, but if you look at people link, and there it would have it would be a feasible no, well, not probable, but something that could be said that somebody has access to permissions, but not to list. So because admin people permissions, you would have access because somebody needs to be able to change some permissions, but not to list because list is like some under some privacy policy. You shouldn't be you shouldn't be able to list something that, so that's kind of it's a far-fetched, but so what if you would have access to some of the tab level or pages, but not to the one that's actually in the menu?
Right. For example, a user might have permission to configure media, but not have permission to the configuration page. And then this entire part of the menu would be hidden from that user, even though the user has access to one of the links under configuration. So that's true. I think it's independent of the issue we're discussing. It's sort of the complementary question. So that's the issue where you have permission to a child issue, but not the parent. And what we're talking about now is when you have permission to the parent, but none of the children.
Yeah. So like, for instance, I think regional language. So I think language negotiation would be something that has a kind of a menu structure. So under, I think, is it language, under languages? So detection and selection. So that's something that's like deep into the menu structure, but doesn't have a menu item. So this is something that when we're if we are thinking about if it should be a feature of the menu, or if it should be a feature of access. So that kind of, but that's going into technical implementation, if it should be handled by menu or if it should be handled by access. But that's something that kind of, it doesn't have a permission probably as such, separate permission, but it could be, it's somehow, well, just maybe not worth making it so complicated, like making the idea so complicated, but in certain cases we might have stuff that's not in the menu but under some menu items.
Is already very large, but there are some pages that you can reach by navigation like this through tabs and subtabs, and not all of them are listed on the admin menu. Or a more common example is in Drupal core, if you go to content types, you have links for each of the content types, and none of these are in the admin menu. If you have the contrib module, the admin toolbar contrib module, then in fact you do have children of content types, and those are available directly from the menu. So there are different opinions as to how much should be put into the one menu.
So if you're allowed to manage article, but not all content types, should you be able to see structure menu?
Right, and if that's the case, then you need some way to navigate to the thing you have permissions for. And so it's helpful to have it in the menu, which means you need access to the parent items. Michael, do you still want to say something?
Yes. So currently because I haven't really have time to go through the whole issue. But currently how is the overview page being made? Is it from a controller, or it's just simply made as an overview page that controls who has access to it?
I don't recall offhand. Are you asking about in particular structure?
Yeah, structure or content.
These top level menu items, because those are the only.
Yes, because your proposal about adding an option in menu item, it seems like it's going to influence it depends on whether it's a top level parent item or a children, and it would have a correlation between each other on which whether it has a parent or not.
Yeah, so my suggestion would not depend on whether it's top level or not, just whether it has children.
Oh, okay. Just whether it has children. So once it has the children, then it will be accessible. If it doesn't, then it would be restricted.
Right, it would restricted in the sense that it's removed from the menu.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Although if you have some other way of getting to the page, it would not affect the access.
Okay. But
proposal is access based, so no matter how you get there, you don't have access.
And I thought this should be made in core like automatically, but not turned, not as an option. Because you're trying to expose this as an option for users to make for themselves or for certain users.
For the
Say,
site administrator, for anyone who can administer the menus.
and if I want to allow a certain role to view that part, then how should this menu item option be implemented for certain roles?
So if you want a particular role to see a particular link, that role needs permission to see the page, and that's already the case, and that wouldn't change. And the only difference is that for any menu item that has children, if you declare that structure is sort of a container and has nothing on its page other than the children, then my proposal is that it's not shown in the menu tree unless at least one of its children is shown in the menu tree.
Okay, so this option would only decide whether this page would be accessible, no matter how the role is given, because no matter how the access is given to other roles.
Depend on other roles, but yeah, it would not be tied to access. And Ralph says in the chat that I have finally succeeded in explaining myself, and he agrees with my proposal.
Okay, yeah, I agree with your proposal as well, since it's not related, it's not tied to the roles access, but for each roles, I mean, for each users to gain access to a certain page has nothing to do with the current menu item overview page to be accessible.
Okay, and I just realized we are up against the hour, and I want to be respectful of your time, so I think I'm going to cut off the discussion. And I think I have at least some support for this, and no strong objections. So I will comment on the issue, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Okay,
I'm thinking
thank you very much.
if there could be some kind of setting at the menu level. But yeah, that's not for this meeting.
Okay.
Have a nice weekend, everyone.
Yeah, have a good weekend.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.